everybody. How is everyone doing? I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you are doing well. It is Friday night. Friday night's always an exciting time to be alive. It's always an exciting time because we get to take the whole week and wrap it all together, put it in a nice box, and ship it out before the weekend. So, hope you guys are all doing well. I'm excited for this weekend. Got a couple things planned with the family, and gonna have a good time. Hope you guys have something good planned. Hopefully it's nice, safe, and hopefully you guys got something good going on. So, yeah, thank you guys for all being here. First off, if this is your first time here, my name is Jason Lyon, Mr. Merker, the Bearded Truth. I am your neighborhood-friendly libertarian, talking to you about politics and social issues that go on not only around in our country, but also around the world. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys all for the support that it has gone on up to this point. It has been truly remarkable to see the amount of support everyone has been giving me, whether it's in the streams, sharing the streams, subscribing, or whatever content you've been doing for the platform, as well as reaching out and helping out in the personal lives. So thank you guys very much. It has been extremely appreciated with everything that you guys have been doing. It looks as if the restream chat is not functioning very well. I will hopefully we'll be able to fix that and get that all figured out. But in the interim, I'm going to try to troubleshoot that real quick. So I've got a lot of things I'm going to go through tonight. We're going to be talking a little bit about, of course, the Rashid Tlaib and the Ilhan Omar situation with Israel and Trump. That, of course, has been getting a lot of people's panties in a bunch. Trump came out with some good news today involving Afghanistan. So certainly, whenever the commander-in-chief does right, it's well worth discussing and pointing that out. That way, you guys don't accuse me of always being anti-Trump. And we're also going to be covering a couple stories that are down here in my neck of the woods, well, at least one of them, and talk about some of the issues that goes on when it comes to police and the way that they get involved. We'll also, if we have time, we'll get into the Pennsylvania shooter who had shot 6 police officers. We'll get into that, and of course, we have to do kind of the final wrap up with the Epstein situation. So lots of things to go through. It's going to be jam-packed filled. Hopefully, we'll be able to get through it all. Because as normal, trying to run the show in about an hour's time. Now, before we really get started into everything, now that we know what's coming in the future, I do have to give a big shout out and a big thank you to Muddy Waters Media for giving me a platform to reach out to talk to you guys about my opinions, my stances, and my views on the current climate of what's going on in our world. So thank you to Muddy Waters Media for giving me this opportunity. And of course, if you guys ever want to tune in, you don't want to tune in live, you can always catch us on the podcast. You can catch us after the fact. Bring us with you on the go. Take it to work. Take it to the gym. Take us wherever, whenever. And certainly, if you're going to be doing that, the best way you can listen to us is, of course, through Anchor FM. But all of your favorite podcast apps, we will certainly be there. Just look us up, Muddy Waters Media, and we thank you for doing so. I think we've got all of the introductions. If I haven't said it, and I think I did, but it's well worth repeating. Thank you guys all for your support. Thank you guys all for your retweets, for your shares, for your likes, for your hitting the notification bells on YouTube, on Facebook, for just being involved in this community that we've built. Thank you. Thank you so much. You guys really do make this a fantastic and wonderful, beautiful place. Now, let's get started first. I want to get started with the Trump and Afghanistan situation. So Trump today comes out and he plans a Friday meeting to make arrangements for withdrawal from Afghanistan. Yes, U.S. negotiators have made significant advances in recent talks with the Taliban, and the two sides are close to announcing agreements on the initial U.S. troop withdrawal. Right now, we have about 14,000 troops over there in Afghanistan. this started from really from the 9/11 situation. Certainly, we've been involved before then, but this has been that situation. So 9/11, 2001 got us into Afghanistan, and we have 14,000 troops still sitting in there. And so Trump is finally working. Trump and company are working to remove at least or right around 5,000 troops. Now, those who have been working with them, some of them would not be surprising many people. You know, the Silver Fox, Vice President Mike Pence. He's always been a proponent of pulling out. Sorry, but the one that's kind of surprising me a little bit is Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, those two have been kind of the war hawks. They've been the neocons. They've been, let's drop bombs first and ask questions later. Him being involved with this, you have to expect that this is going against his what his desires are. But Mike Pompeo, Trump's, I guess, got him on a short leash, and that will be. We'll see how that plays out. Along with it, within this article, this is from Washington Post. In exchange, the Taliban would agree to renounce Al-Qaeda and to prevent it from activities such as fundraising, recruiting, training, and operational planning in areas under Taliban control. So putting some more controls over Al-Qaeda, limiting them. That's a fantastic idea. I think that it's been made quite abundantly clear that Saudi Arabia has been in support of Al-Qaeda over time. They've provided shelter after the 9/11 attacks. They were the ones who flew the planes into the buildings, into the towers. And I hope that we can continue this and find other ways in order to squash support for Al-Qaeda through peaceful means of utilizing others in the close proximity. A White House official cautioned that Friday's meeting with Trump may not immediately result in a decision or announcement. So we will expect this to come up over the next couple of weeks if these discussions go as planned. It's not going to be something immediate, of course not. You have way too many people that are worried about the vacuum that it creates. They're worried about when we pull out, who's going to fill in that spot. That has always been kind of the I want to call them the warmongers, but it's those who are just so afraid that they're coming after us for our freedoms. They hate us for our freedoms. They hate us because we're free. It's kind of that mentality that if America's not there, if it's not the American boots on the ground, then they're going to get filled in, and they're going to get filled in with terrorists, and they're going to grow. And I won't give credence to that thought. Welcome in, Jacob LaBelle. I apologize for sincerely for my absence. Your absence was noted, but no apology needed. Welcome back, good sir. No one in DC will ever do anything about Saudi. That's not accurate. There's been plenty of people trying to do things with regards to Saudi Arabia. There's been, there was bills being put on President Trump's desk. It's just a matter of getting somebody who's not going to veto those, and then we will see a change there. Tulsi Gabbard, if she comes in, that will certainly be one of her big agendas. Not that I think that Tulsi Gabbard's going to be making it in there, but that is certainly one of her big stances is bring the troops home, support the troops by bringing the troops home. And I certainly do agree with that ideology, with that way of thinking. So big news there, right? Hopefully we can here within the Afghanistan sovereignty, we can start pulling back our troops, support our troops by bringing them home. That's a fantastic movement. The only thing is it's not far enough. It's not enough. Bring all the troops home. Let's find ways of bringing every single one of our troops home. I love the American men and women too much to think it's justified to sit there in proximity wars, to be in endless wars, and to keep putting their lives in danger. And certainly now that we're getting into situations where people weren't even born when the times of these wars being initiated, and they're going over it into these areas. That's certainly a big issue. think I just saw somebody I didn't want to see. Okay, here we go. Senator Lindsey Graham. That's fantastic. His middle name's O. That's the first time I've seen that. Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, from my neck of the woods, responding to initial reports of a deal, raised the trust question in a statement. To trust the Taliban to control al-Qaeda and other militant groups in Afghanistan as a replacement for the U.S. counterterrorism force would be a bigger mistake than Obama's Iranian nuclear deal, he said. Such an agreement is not a peace deal. Instead, it is paving the way for another attack on the American homeland and attacks against the American interests around the world. I'm not going to say I told you so, but I just told you so. Just moments ago, I was talking about if we pull out, then the bigger terrorism, more threats against the American people. Lindsey Graham, blowing the horns of war, always. I hope President Trump and his team make sound and sustainable decisions about radical Islamist threats emanating from Afghanistan, the place where 9/11 originated. Graham said. The White House official sought to play down expectations for Friday's meetings, asked whether the president intends to make a decision about true presence in Afghanistan. He said, I don't know that we'll have any announcement or decision or any information coming out in one way or the other. This, of course, has been one of the campaign promises from Trump. He's been a big proponent of pulling out of Afghanistan as well as out of Syria. It would be nice to see. This is one of those campaign promises that I've been holding him to it. I know that in the past it was Congress that was preventing the president from achieving this campaign promise, and I'm hoping that this is given enough time and has allowed for enough conversations in the back rooms to enable this to go through. 5,000 troops, 5,000 American lives, 5,000 families reunited, 5,000 people that will be able to sleep at home in their own beds at night and not have to worry about bombs blowing up around them, not having to worry about protecting somebody else, but rather than being home and being able to protect their families here in the United States. I'm failing to see a good argument. Certainly Lindsey Graham on this one is not providing one to the contrary. So fantastic stuff there. While we're talking about some misleading news, some misleading views, I think this would be a perfect opportunity to transition over to Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein, the man, the myth. I will not call him the legend, but seriously, one of the only men out there to become deceased, and for the mainstream media to really be portraying a story that is been determined by many, by possibly even most, as the conspiracy theory. Not being pressured to murder people. Absolutely, Jacob LaBelle. Absolutely. So mainstream media has been pushing this, and if you guys missed Boogie Bumper's show on this from last week, he actually had a fantastic show where he broke it down from MSNBC, who really was like, hey, don't believe the conspiracy theories. Of course, the internet's going crazy. Unless the one that we're peddling, which is it's all Trump. Trump came in and murdered him. That one, yeah, we could talk about that one. So the mainstream media overall is trying to portray this as Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. There was really there's no malfeasance inherently. There was a lot of things that slipped up, and some of them are carrying some of the facts, some of the narrative, but they're not giving it in its totality. And it's been very misleading for a lot of people. For example, we have a lot of suspicious things that went on, of course, just before the event, just before his suicide. So we all knew that Jeffrey Epstein had attempted to commit suicide before. He was found unconscious. They saved him or resuscitated him, or whatever you want to call it, prevented him from committing suicide, put him on suicide watch, took him off suicide watch, removed his cellmate, allowed him to be by himself in an area where suicide was possible, which is highly sketchy all on its own. Why would you have somebody that attempts suicide, a very well-known individual, somebody who obviously there's so much of the situation is still unknown, and where the prosecutors, of course, were going to try and pull out more information. There was going to be so many investigations. William Barr was already on it. You had people within the DOJ, all around government, doing as thorough of an investigation in order to right all the wrongs that had been committed with his ring that he was involved with. So you had this celebrity, and you take him off of suicide watch. You allow him to do his own thing. You take out anybody there that, and certainly that goes both ways, right? You don't want a cellmate there because he was a pedophile, and pedophiles obviously are not treated well. But at the same time, if you don't have anybody in there, you're now enabling him to. Nobody's there to raise the alarm should he want to commit suicide. And certainly along those lines, the security there were forging the logs. The logs were saying, look, every half hour we were going through checking out everybody. But on the night in which he, Jeffrey Epstein, became deceased, there was up to 3 hours without a single check being performed. 3 hours. 3 hours without a single check being performed. So that's not one set of logs. That's not two sets of logs. That's 6 sets of logs that were forged. And this wasn't even just those 3 hours and that was it, right? It's being reported by the Washington Post and other news agencies that it was multiple times and multiple gaps of when they just weren't going out and doing their jobs. They spoke about how these the security there were on extremely long shifts. They were there for extended days at a time. There was one security guard that was on his 5th day straight of overtime. So obviously these guys are being overworked, and that has led to a detriment there. So there's just so many things that when you look at just the outside logistics of surrounding Epstein, it's hard to go, this was just an honest mistake. The man committed suicide, and everything was just so serendipitous that it all just came together perfectly. The stars aligned, all the planets aligned, and there we have it, the perfect situation for Jeffrey Epstein to commit suicide. And it gets worse than that. It gets even worse than that. It gets even worse than that. So, in one of the neck bones, the hyoid, I believe I'm saying that correctly, the hyoid bone was broken in Jeffrey Epstein's neck. Now, this bone, there was a study done from 2010 to 2013 on this very specific bone. Now, out of the 264 cases in which this bone was broken, 264 cases where this bone was broken, only 16 of them were determined to be by suicide. That's 6%. So we had all of the stars line up, building into the situation in which Jeffrey Epstein was left alone and unguarded, unwatched, unchecked for multiple hours at a time. And then the specific bone in which less than 10% of the cases from this study were suicide, and we're supposed to believe all of these things just lined up so perfectly that this man committed suicide. That right there, that you're looking at a serious statistical impossibility of all those things lining up perfectly. And then you add in his status. Then you add in how many people were already implicated by accusations, by the unsealed document from the day before his attempted suicide. Or, sorry, not his attempted suicide. The day before he was found deceased. You add in all of those situations. You add up everything. And it's so incredibly difficult to go, all right, it was suicide. But this is what the media has been running for people. This is what the media has been running for people, and it's truly amazing that a lot of people have been pointing this out. Alex Jones was removed just before all this had broken out, right? Just months ago, Alex Jones was taken off. He was deplatformed on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on all the different platforms. He doesn't have near the following he does from before, and you can certainly go find him on his website. I'm not going to advocate for him. I'm not going to endorse him or anything, but you can certainly easily go find his website and go tune into him. But Alex Jones has been talking about for years about a giant sex ring involving DC, involving Hollywood, involving the societal elites, and how they will gladly cut loose ends by any means necessary. And as long as they're able to and capable of cutting those ties and tightening them up, they will do it. It doesn't matter how big of a conspiracy it looks like. It doesn't matter how much foul play it looks like. There's enough people involved with this. There's enough dirty hands in this that they'll be able to at least convince a majority of the public on this. And so Alex Jones really does seem so strongly vindicated on this. He seems like he was spot on for this for years, and it's no wonder that he was taken off. Yes, Alex Jones goes crazy conspiracy on a lot of things, on many things, right? I don't care if you believe the frogs are turning gay. You could think it's the water, you could think it's the chemtrails, you could think whatever it is. But that doesn't mean that everything that Alex Jones has said was completely out there and it's bonkers and it's just unacceptable. Alex Jones does have some as depicted by this situation, he does have some decent sourcing. He does have some good sourcing, and maybe I'm taking the stance on turn the frogs gay and all these other things. Maybe I'm taking the same stance that the media took and that a lot of people took on the sex ring. Maybe that's it. I could be completely 100% wrong on this. I'm not. Just my view and just my stance on that is stuff like this he's right on, and other stuff he's wrong on. I'm more than accepting of being proven wrong on this. But looking at this whole entire situation, it's so incredibly difficult to trust the MSNBCs, the CNNs, the Fox News, and all these other organizations that are kind of they're pushing it a little bit, and they're like. Effectively, they're pushing the windows of what's acceptable to be said, and they're pushing it a little bit, but they're not doing their due diligence. They're not doing what journalism was there to do, and that is to go and find the ugly truths, to spread the ugly truth, not to make people feel comfortable and go, well, there's some bad stuff there, but it's okay. The government's got your best interest, and like what I covered with Spike Cohen, this last Tuesday night on the Muddy Waters Freedom, the Mr. Miracles of Freedom, from this last Tuesday night, even if everything that the media was saying is true and that this was just a suicide, that speaks so darkly. It really does portray the government and the prison system and all these systems in possibly the most accurate light possible. That if you have somebody that you desperately need to stay alive, to keep alive because they have so much information that you need to extract from them over time, that you have to protect them, and you want to make sure that they don't hurt themselves, that other people don't hurt them, that they're in a pristine condition, and they let the man die. Even if that is what happened, how do you trust them? How do you trust them? So either the entire system is corrupt and allowed for this to happen, and they are so ineffective and just fail at such a task that should be such a high priority to them, or B, they're complacent and allowing and corrupt and allowing for other entities to come in. I can't find a situation in which I go, they did nothing wrong. I'm failing to find a way to justify that the system didn't fail them. Welcome in, Happy Camper. The rich are soulless asses. Nice beard. I appreciate it, JT457. And Monica L. My guess is Alex is more accurate than or mainstream media. Yes. But don't tell anyone. I would agree with that. He probably is more accurate. He goes off the rails. And I think that right now with the culture, the climate of our world, going off the rails may be a little more accurate than sticking to the mainstream narrative. So Jeffrey Epstein, man, that whole entire situation just blows my mind. And then also Jeffrey Epstein's lawyers had Dr. Michael Baden observe his autopsy, Jeffrey Epstein's autopsy. Now, this was an interesting person, right? When his name popped up, many people went, I know that name from other situations. And so I want to just give you guys a list of people that this specific doctor had worked on before, worked with their autopsies. This includes Martin Luther King. This includes J.F. Kennedy. This includes John Belushi. This includes Aaron Hernandez, the Patriot, from the Patriots, and Eric Garner. So this is a guy that has lots of experience. He's done over 2,000 different autopsies. So he's got the experience there. But some of those had questionable results, right? Some of those were very questionable, and the results, those situations, there are a great abundance of conspiracies tied to them. Of course, Martin Luther King, that one, we just had the Kennedy files get released in a less redacted form than what it was before. A lot more information became public when President Trump first came into office. You guys remember back in early 2017. And some of the Martin Luther King story came out. So he was in on that one. John F. Kennedy, I think everyone knows about the conspiracy there, the potential conspiracy there, and that whole entire situation. So he was in on that one. John Belushi, Aaron Hernandez, that's just two well-known two people. Eric Garner, right? That's another one of the situations in which I think that there was a great amount of wrongdoing. But those ones were less on the conspiracy side. But now we have Jeffrey Epstein. And what are the odds that you have somebody that is running these extremely high, publicly sensitive situations, and his name keeps coming up? This man's obviously getting quite old. I don't know. It just doesn't leave a good feeling. It just doesn't leave a good feeling at the end of the day on here. So I don't know. This entire situation just reeks. Just absolutely reeks. The man is 85 years old. 85 years old, and still is being utilized as a tool from by the government, I guess, or in these autopsies. If you've done this many high-profile cases, I think it might be time for you to retire, my good sir. It might be time to step down and just retire. Speaking of retiring, and it being that time, there's a sheriff down here in Greenville County that should be retired, forcefully retired, and without pay, without benefits, and everything else. From June 14th, there was a call that was done to the sheriff's office, and nobody had picked up. And so one of these sheriffs decided to show up to the house, to be able to check it out and make sure everything was okay. If you dial 911 and you hang up, they go and check on this. So they go to Mr. Tench's house, and they will go check out this guy's house to see what's going on, do the wellness check, if you will. And Mr. Tench doesn't know that anyone's coming. He has no idea. So imagine being a homeowner, imagine being asleep. You wake up in the middle of the night, you see lights outside, you hear things, you know things are going on. You have concealed carry permit. You're a law-abiding citizen. You love protecting yourself, your own life, your own liberty, and your own pursuit of happiness because no one will do it better than you. And so you decide that you're going to go check out the situation. I have searched my house. I've cleared my house because I would rather be safe than sorry. So Mr. Tench decides to go down there and check out the situation. Decides to go check out the situation and see what's going on. And while he's walking out there, while he's going to check out the potential person of interest walking up to his house, the deputy, the sheriff, decides that he sees somebody standing there, and without confronting him, without making any sort of communication, without any attempt to facilitate, to downplay the situation, pulls out his firearm and starts firing inside this individual's house. Now, if you guys are not firearm owners, if you don't spend a lot of time around firearms, there's a couple key rules for firearm safety, right? This is taught by anyone, the NRA, police, military. If you're around firearms, there's 4 basic rules that everyone knows, right? Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Know what's behind your target. Treat every gun as if it was loaded. You know, those are the 3 of the 4 basics. I'm blanking right now on the 4th one. I'm sad about that. 4 cardinal rules. I can't believe I'm blanking on this right now. I can't believe it. Always treat firearms as if they were loaded. Oh yes, that was it. Never allow the muzzle of any firearm to point at anything you're not willing to destroy. And never put your finger near the trigger until you're ready to fire. And always be sure of your target and what's behind and in front of it. So in this situation, where was it failed? It was the always be sure of your target, what is behind and what is in front of it. The sheriff was shooting through the window, through the door, really not being able to see what's there, was more terrified for their life, had no reason, no concern, took no reasonable action in order to check the situation. And so pulled the trigger. He was ready to fire and pointed the firearm at somebody. So ruined the rule of being sure what's in front of and behind your target whenever you shoot. Now, after he fires upon this individual, Mr. Tench falls to the ground after being shot in the chest and in the groin region, falls to the ground and starts screaming out for somebody to call the police. Mr. Tench had no idea that this was a police officer. He had no idea who it was that was in his house, who was coming up to his house, and who had just fired upon him. And the deputy on the deputy's own personal camera says, "I am the cops. I am the cops." We're living in a world, in a country where the cops are being more and more emboldened to the idea that shoot first and ask questions later. Take out these implied threats before you even see if they truly are a threat. Now, I, as a firearm owner, and as most people I know that have dealt with home defense, with defense and security training, they know verbal cues are the first thing you do. Report who you are. Make a positive command. Report who you are. Report what you're doing. Report your reason for being here. If you believe that they're armed, tell them to raise their hands, show your hands. Right? You make positive commands. The officer did none of these things, and decided to initiate violence upon another and threatened the life of Tench. Now, in this situation, in this very specific situation, if Tench would have shot the officer and killed the officer, even with that video camera, who believes that the officer would have had, a glorious funeral? There would have been national syndicated news, and Mr. Tench would have been facing prison time. I really do believe that Mr. Tench would not have been wealthy enough in order to fight the state in order to protect, when he was merely protecting his own life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Our system is becoming more and more corrupt as time goes on. I'm not anti-cop, but I'm anti-this. I'm anti a situation where the sheriff's office even misrepresented this to the public and then thankfully released this video that contradicted their own story. And providing this to us makes it feel as if we cannot be even safe in our own homes. We cannot be safe in our own homes because there may be an officer that comes to my home in the middle of the night when I am disoriented, dazed, and confused, and I could be shot through my own front door. I can't. I don't know how this. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how we're supposed to trust a situation like this. Trust our police force to do this, to protect us. If like a situation like this, they're the ones who are the aggressors. It's such a massive struggle. What's up, Kostas? Such a massive struggle. All right, I want to get into this Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar situation. Get into this real quick because I know it has been rustling the jimmies. It is having everybody. It's been getting your feathers in a fluff. You know what I'm saying? It's bothering people on both sides of the aisle. Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar are two people who follow Islam. They are of Muslim faith, and many people hold that against them. I don't really care what you believe. Be a good person. I don't think that they're inherently good people. I don't think a lot of people in DC are good people. But that's being used in this situation. I'm gonna lay out the basics, and then we'll get into the actual situation. I'm sure most of you know what this is. I'm sure most of you have been seeing this. But for those of you who've been missing out on this, bravo, absolutely bravo, because it's stupid drama. That's all this is. But so Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, Muslim faith. They've been accused of being anti-Semitic. Rashida Tlaib has apologized, made public apologies for comments that she's made. They both are supporters of BDS, right? Boycott, divest, and sanction against Israel in favor of the Palestinian people. They don't generally hold views that say what the conservative base is or the Republican base is, and that is that Israel is, generalizing here, of course, because there are some that disagree with this notion, but that Israel is, the Holy Lands. It is an entity that should be Jewish, that should be the land of the Jewish people, that they should be protected, emboldened, and provided for. They're our greatest ally, despite the fact that they're really not doing much for America. That we have to be their protectors. We have to be their guiding light, because they're in some ways our guiding light. So a huge conflict there, and there's a trip that is coming out going to Israel. I agree with that, Happy Camper. There's a huge issue where they were looking to go to the West Bank and the Palestinian areas within Israel, and President Trump comes out. He's trying to push the negotiations, push the talks of preventing them from coming here or going there, and he actually had got Netanyahu to prevent that. So Netanyahu comes out and he's actually deciding, based on let me see if I can find this real quick. I apologize. Based on a law that they have where they're able to pick who is allowed to and who's not allowed to, because they're able to protect their borders against activists who support the boycott movement, they were able to ban those two individuals from coming in. Now, from this situation, right, so we have Netanyahu, we have Trump, we have Ilhan Omar, and we have Rashida Tlaib all being involved with this. And of course, when you have such radically different movements and they're clashing against one another, you have a lot of bombastic rhetoric going on. You have a lot of things, and I'm going to try to push all of that to the side and really let's think about what it is that we're saying here. If you are of the faith, of the belief that a country is sovereign and can pick and choose who comes in and who's allowed in and who's not allowed in their borders. This is mostly, of course, the Republican base. This is a large conservative movement. This is, even some libertarians. Then Israel is correct in saying you can't come in, right? Somebody who is actively been vocal against your people, your country, by advocating for boycotts, divestments, and sanctions against you, you are completely 100% vindicated on that. If you're somebody that believes that imaginary lines is not necessarily grounds for preventing somebody from practicing their exercise of free travel, this is mostly the Democrats, this is also some of the other libertarians, then you go, how are you going to ban somebody from coming into an area? That seems like a large government overreach. So we have this clash of the two values going on. And at the end of the day, regardless on the border situation, regardless on the sovereignty situation, if you had somebody that was being vocal and proposing to aggress upon your people, and I'm going to use the collectivist term here, it's not in your best interest to let them be around you, right? Rashida Tlaib and Omar had a plan that they had released, and it was U.S. congressional delegation to Palestine. So despite the fact that they were in Israel, their entire agenda, their entire plan was to go talk to the Palestinians. Now, they said that they were going to talk with some of the Israeli people, but But explaining the decision, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu cited the lawmakers' itinerary, which he said reveals that the sole purpose of their visit is to harm Israel and increase incitement against it. And so their entire agenda was to go to Tel Aviv, arrive at Tel Aviv, and then go and talk with different people. They were going to go through the major Palestinian population centers in Jerusalem and the West Bank, and to a string of meetings with Palestinian nonprofits and activists, as well as international human rights groups. So if you guys have been following just the mainstream media on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, you would know that there's been violence amongst both parties. There's been violence where Israel's been retaliating and Palestinian people have been retaliating against one another. There's been a lot of wrongdoing on both sides there. I'm not going to stand here and defend one side or the other. But there has been humanitarian aid crisis there on both sides, right? When the Palestinians are working with groups like Hamas, and missiles are being fired in, and they're being attempted to be targeting schools, and you can tell by the large variance and where these missiles are hitting, where these armaments are hitting, that there's either A, they're completely uneducated on how to operate them, which may be likely, or B, it's just to promote terror. There's a huge issue there, right? When you are having these conflicts and you're threatening the lives of children and innocents, right? That's never acceptable. And of course, the retaliation strikes, or even the initiation strikes, which have been done by Israel as well, those against the Palestinian people or others, those are not warranted, welcomed, and have raised to international human rights crises as well. So big issues on both sides of the aisle there. I'm not, this isn't the Trump, there's good people on both sides. There are objective wrongdoings on both sides. I choose, this is one of those situations where I don't choose a side. I don't have a personal interest in either one of these. Israel does not represent me, and the Palestinian people do not represent me. And I hope for peace. I hope for prosperity for both groups. I hope that they will be able to be civil, sit down, have handled their disputes and their discussions. But it doesn't involve me at all. I struggle. I struggle to say one side is the innocent, one side is the guilty. It's not the same as like the Saudi Arabia, Yemen genocide going on, right? Saudi Arabia is obviously the major aggressor in this situation. Yemen is not coming out there and performing military strikes against Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is divesting. They've sanctioned. They've placed embargoes. They've prevented humanitarian aid from coming in. And meanwhile, they're bombing their schools, they're bombing their weddings, they're bombing their hospitals, and they're bombing the funerals from their bombing. So, two very different situations. And these, of course, the Saudi Arabia one is with the support of the American tax dollars, the American government, and the American military. So, many more things to be pointed out within that situation than the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But like I said, I hope that they're sometime in the future. And I know that this is extremely hopeful. This is glass way more full than what it should be, because of how long these conflicts have been going on, how long these conflicts have been going on. That expecting them to end anytime soon is wasted hope in a lot of ways. But I will continue to take my stance on that. The Houthis are promoting violence, right? Many of the groups there are. Many of the groups are. So there's many bad things going on over there. And if you guys want to see, because I love giving shout outs for other podcasts, other platforms. If you guys really want to know what's going on from the other side, if you guys are the pro-Israel group, and no, I have no qualms, no problems with you being pro-Israel, being pro-Palestinian people, whatever it is, whatever side you've taken, no problem there. But if you are on the pro-Israel side, go check out Scott Horton. Go listen to Scott Horton's podcast. Go tune in, listen to see what he's saying. Hear the other side. Challenge yourself. Hear the other side. See if it changes your bias, your view. Of course, if you're on the pro-Palestinian side, there's a couple people that I could recommend. Dennis Prager talks about it. He's got a couple good videos from the other side. I think that there's me personally, I think that there's a couple more narrative faults on the side of the absolute pro-Israel side than there is for the pro-Palestinian side. But there's criticism on both sides, certainly. The Houthis in Yemen. Oh, my bad. For those, no. Well, the Houthis, I believe that there was, yes. So the Houthis have done some negative things towards Saudi Arabia. But when you look at those things and you put them into the entire situation, the entire context of what's been going on there, you look at the way that things have been handled. And the Houthis have not done nearly the same amount of damage, destruction, and caused the same issues, such as what Saudi Arabia has done to the innocent people. Not even just that group, to the innocent people in Yemen. Right, over 800,000 children. 800,000 children have been killed, have been starved, because of the direct actions of Saudi Arabia, and with the support of the United States government. It's a huge issue. And I do hold President Trump in contempt for continuing to support this. He has made public remarks on this situation all on its own. But with that, guys, I want to appreciate you guys. Thank you guys all for coming in. The comment section has been lively. I appreciate you all. You guys are all fantastic. I thank you guys for liking this, for retweeting, for sharing, for making the support that you guys have been doing. You guys really do make this all worthwhile. But with that, it's Friday night, so don't drink and drive or ride with those who do. You have family and friends who care about you and love you deeply, and they want to make sure that you stay safe and you get back here for Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for me, Mr. America, the Beard of Truth, Jason Line, and I will see you guys then. And we'll start the whole week over again on Monday, of course, with me, and then we'll follow it up with Muddy Waters Media. And that will be, I believe Matt is going to be coming back on the show for Tuesday night. So it'll be Spike and Matt running the fantastic show. Wednesday night will be with Spike Cohen on My Fellow Americans. Thursday night will be the Writer's Block with Matt Wright and his guest. And then Friday night, next Friday night, of course, will be me once again, Mr. America, the Beard of Truth, Jason Lyon. Hope you guys all have a great weekend. Stay safe. And I will see you guys Monday night. Take care. Be safe. Be well. I'll see you guys then.